What's going on, everybody? Exceptional Gabe here, back with another edition of Exceptionally Animated, the show where we get the greatest voice actors in the industry to talk about their amazing work. And today, I've got another legend from Toronto. Please welcome the amazing Richard Binsley. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Gabe.
As you know, because obviously, like you were telling me earlier, you've done your homework, you've watched some of my interviews. I always start out by asking, what was your first ever voiceover role?
The very first voiceover job I did came as a surprise. I was doing some work on stage in Toronto with a repertory theater in Toronto. And it was a very silly show, and I was doing some silly voice work in it. Uh, and our agency at the time, the agency with whom I was associated, Gary Goddard and Associates, didn't have a voice agent in their group. But my agent, Celia Chazels, just brought somebody along, a casting director from Nelvana, and who also was a voice director, Jesse Thompson. And they came to the show together. And then I just got a call saying, "Do you want to come in and read for something?" I went and read, and I got the gig. And my very first character was in Beetlejuice. So this would have been around 1990, 91, somewhere around there. And the character's name was Wyatt Burp. And I walked in, and I did do the on cue thing. And I walked into the studio. I was in the booth by myself with my head buried in the text, read it through, and I had no idea how I'd done. I mean, I knew I hadn't popped my P's and everything, but I had no idea how it was received because I'd never read a script that was just me talking and trying to make up what everybody else was saying, because it was just me reading my lines. Anyway, I finished the scene and I looked up, and everybody in the booth was falling about laughing. And I thought, oh, good. I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be okay. And it was. And I got some smaller jobs then. And then it took a while for it to land something more regular.
Wow. And Beetlejuice, that was such a good show because obviously, Beetlejuice was voiced by Stephen Met, who is an amazing voice actor in Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also Allison Court was in that show, who would later go on to do the Big Comfy Couch.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So also,
And once again, I never worked with Stephen Met directly in the studio. I never. I've worked with Stephen Met in the past on stage and other work, but never in the studio.
ah,
Yeah.
that's a shame because he's such an amazing voice actor. Like he was in Maggie and the Ferocious Beast and so many other great Nirvana shows.
Yeah, he's a pretty extraordinary actor in his own right on every level. Yeah.
Um, and around that same time, weren't you in Rupert as well?
I did a lot of spots in Rupert Bear. Yeah, a lot of spots. And from doing uh, Beetlejuice and Rupert Bear, I played talking sticks. I played trees. I played a Shakespearean potato. All these very peculiar things for the first little while. Yeah.
and
And I played a seagull, I think, on Rupert Bear one time, which I really quite enjoyed. That was fun.
yeah, and again, Rupert, another legend was in that show. Rupert Bear was voiced by Julie Lemieux, another legend in Toronto.
Yes, and I did have the privilege of working in the studio with her on a couple of occasions, which was great fun. Yeah.
Ah, that's awesome. And then shortly after, you were in the cartoon adaptation of the Neverending Story.
Yes, Bark Troll, good old Bark Troll. And I was in the studio there with Noah, and the two of us would just do our bits every week. We'd go in and do one, and it was really quite wonderful. And I think I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it was Jesse Thompson who directed. Anyway, she had us in there together because with a young actor there, it was nicer to have an older guy to sort of keep it, keep a lid on it, and so it was kind of it was an interesting experience. And Bark Troll, terrible things happened to Bark Troll. Usually, he'd fall off things, he'd run into things. He was always falling down. He's always getting hurt. And one of the sound technicians made a recording of all of the reactions from everything that I had done from that first season, and he put it into like a 90-second kind of concerto of Bark Troll being hurt and wounded and falling, and it was all reactions taken from it. And it's one of the funniest things I have. I've kept it forever. It's a tape, so it goes back. but it is literally just bark troll. Not a word is spoken. It's just me going, falling, getting hit and falling down and getting pounded. And it's an absolute scream. Anyway, you would understand it if you heard it. You would understand it was outtakes. And anybody who's into cartoons would. But I played it for my friends who had no idea what the cartoon thing was. And they just listened to it and they thought I was a madman because I was falling about laughing and they were going, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But you would appreciate it.
That's so funny. Always love the outtakes.
Yes. Oh yeah. 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 I was in Pippi Longstockings and I voiced Mr. Nilsson in that one. And that was I think one of the first of the apes I played. And from then on, I went on to play various descriptions, monkeys, gibbons, chimpanzees. And in that particular one, Mr. Nilsson didn't speak. He was literally just a monkey. So he just made monkey noises. And that was the gig. So I would go in and do that. And then in Ace Ventura, I did the same thing. I played a different monkey. He had a different accent. No, I played a different ape and I did that and just voiced that, which was really quite fun because I think what the producers and the directors were after was they wanted to know that the audience understood that the monkey meant something, but the monkey was not allowed to use anything that sounded like language to do it. So it was really interesting to do, really fun.
Yeah. And Pippi Longstocking, didn't they have a movie and a TV show based off the franchise at Nirvana?
Yes, I believe they did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the whole yards. Yeah, but the studio stuff was really fun. Just going in and being an ape.
Apes are always some of the funnest characters to play, obviously.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, and Ace Ventura was too. And some of those cases, because we do what's called a library, so that you would go in, you would do basically an episode, and at the end of the takes, you would just do a series of takes of reactions. So what you would just refer to as outtakes, but in this case, there's very specific reactions. So the director would ask us for 5 different laughs, 5 different sounds of sleeping, 5 different sounds of surprise, 5 different sounds of being out of breath and tired, that kind of stuff. And you would lay those in. And then some days you would look at it, I get a script and look at it and go, oh, well, I wonder if I'm going to go in for this one. And then they just go, no, you don't have to come in for this one. We'll use the library. And it was great. So I didn't have to go into the studio because I'd done my homework.
Just like you did with my podcast.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, you did various voices and probably one of my favorite Nirvana shows, Little Bear, and I even got 2 VHS tapes still from Little Bear.
Cool. Little Bear, right? Oh, neat. Maybe it was Little Bear that I did the seagull in. It was a long time ago, these games, so I don't remember them all. I did a lot of them. So yeah, Little Bear, that was a neat one. I'm glad you got those. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You seem to have quite a collection of stuff there. You're well into this.
Oh, sure. Yep. I love my animation stuff. And you were also in Franklin, I believe, which was of course around the same time as Little Bear.
Yeah. We did I did a few of those. I forget what else I was doing at the same time. At one point, I had about 5 different animated series going, to playing bits on them and stuff like that. It was a great time. Yeah. Unfortunately, it also happened while I was working at the Shaw Festival Theater, and so it became very difficult to commute into town to Toronto to get into the studio, do something, and then go back. When I was doing Ace Ventura, for example, I came in and I did 5 episodes in a day on Monday because that was my day off from the theater, and so I lay down 5 episodes and then get back in the car and go back to Niagara-on-the-Lake and go to work Tuesday through Sunday, basically. So it was great work, subsidized my theater habit, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then another show you were in Blazing Dragons.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I was saying I spent most of my time in the studio by myself. But Blazing Dragons was an ensemble piece that got out of hand so many times with the flying comedy. Such extraordinary people were in that. Stephen Sutcliffe, great actor. Juan Kioran was part of that. Eddie Glenn, with whom I'd done a bunch of voice work before. All these great people. And we were all in the studio together. John Stalker was a part of it. He voiced lots of stuff, you'd probably know. And anyway, it would get giddy, silly, because it was very Monty Python-esque the way the show was performed. So we would get pretty silly, and it would take us the longest time to get through everything because we just kept falling about laughing. And the trickiest bit about that kind of stuff, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, I'm sure people have explained it on these before, is that when you're in the studio on your own, it's just you on the mic. You can just talk. It's fine. But when you're in the studio with everybody else, the natural inclination is to feed off them directly. Somebody does something, you react. It makes sense. It's how I do it on stage. But in the studio, somebody does something and you got to give it a beat because the mic's got to shift. There's only one mic on at a time. When you can't speak if your mic's not on, and you have to rely on the sound engineer to make sure that Juan's mic is off and mine is on. And in that setup with about, I think there were 8 of us, maybe sometimes more. Stephanie Morgenstern was there too. So probably 9 of us in the studio at once. And our technicians, Bob Cobbin was one of them at Studio 306, and Jeff, and I can't remember his last name. Those 2 guys I worked with many times. They were so brilliant at going, okay, you're talking, this guy's talking, that guy's talking. Talk about doing your homework. They had to make a whole map of the entire script going, this one's talking, this one's talking. So mic 1, mic 4, mic 3, mic 5, mic 1, mic 4, and just go. And it must have been, it must have been like watching the Olympics, watching these guys change the switches as they did it. But it would always go so smoothly. And on very rare occasions, I would speak and the mic would be dead and I'd have to go, and then start again to carry on. It was really fun. Yeah.
So, and then shortly after that show, this was probably one of my favorite characters you voiced because you were so silly. You voiced Mr. Nuthatch in Birds with a Z.
Yeah. In the Birds, yeah. That one was really fun to do, and that was one where I was in the studio on my own too. But he was a nuthatch. So he was a bit nuts, yeah. And it was there were some extraordinary people in that show too. But of course, I hardly ever worked directly with them, which was kind of a drag. But
yeah. Can you still do the voice for Mr. Nuthatch?
I can't. I honestly, I don't. No, I can't.
I can't remember. I can't remember if I did. I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
I honestly don't remember. There were so many odd ones in there, but there was something like that. I don't think he had an accent because that was Redwall.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of accents. I did things with a lot of accents. And Mr. Nuthatch, I can't remember exactly how he went.
I should have looked it up.
I probably should have looked it up. Yeah.
I remember he always had like the little top of the eggshell on his head, and he had his blanket in therapy, and he was a little crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the lead character's father was a psychiatrist or something, I remember. So
Mr. Nuthatch was visiting him a lot, I guess. Yeah. But he was a crazy guy, I'm sure.
Yeah. And of course, the lead character was voiced by the incredible Susan Roman, who was in Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Susan Roman, and I've worked with her on a number of series. She was in Redwall as well, but never worked with her directly in the studio. But I went to theater school with Susan Roman in the 1970s in Montreal. We all went to school together. So it's just so neat that we've actually worked together, but not. That's what I mean. We've been in the same shows, but we've not actually worked side by side.
I know. That's crazy, though.
Yeah.
And then since you brought it up, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about this show. You were in Redwall, which was such an amazing show.
Yeah, it was a lovely show to do. It was probably the most serious, most dramatic stuff, even though I had a fairly silly fellow, as Basil Staghair, very pompous sort of fellow. But it was very honest and real. It wasn't exaggerated and silly. And some sad things happened in that storyline, and it was wonderful to do.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. It was probably one of Nirvana's most serious shows. Like, it was like everyone I think was in that show at the time. Like every voice actor in Toronto was in that show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There were. I went through the list just the other day, looking at it. I went, oh my God, tons of people in that. And Redwall and Janet Wright, wonderful actress, gone now, but God love her. But yeah, extraordinary people.
Yeah. But what show was very, very silly? Ned's New. Remember doing this show?
Oh yeah, that's Newt. Yeah, right. Chloe. Okay, I have to say I didn't have that one on my list. Ned's Newt. Isn't that funny? What was I in that one? Was I what did I even do in that one? You tell me, man. Because
so I believe you were just like you did some incidentals throughout the show.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
Odd job stuff on that one. Yeah, called in because I needed something silly. Yeah.
So this is another piece in my collection. This is an authentic poster right here.
Wow.
And this is one of my favorite shows Nirvana done because it's so silly. The humor.
Yes.
It has that very silly humor, the kind of humor that's so ridiculous that it's absolutely hilarious. And again, amazing voice cast. Newton was played by a comedian, Holland Williams.
Yeah.
And Ned was voiced by Tracy Moore, who was in Sailor Moon again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sailor Moon's the big one. Everybody remembers Sailor Moon, and all of those voice people still travel all over the place, going to Comic-Con things and that kind of stuff. Sailor Moon was huge.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And another. Well, Dumb's in the title of this show, so it's gonna be dumb. Do you remember the Dumb Bunnies?
Dumb Bunnies, yeah. Dumb Bunnies, yeah. I remember Dumb Bunnies. And who did I do that with? That wasn't Peter Oldring. That was my friend Rabbit, other bunny. I worked with another bunny one time. Rabbit, yeah. Dumb Bunnies, yeah. Wow, you got the list of stuff that and that one that was kind of incidental stuff too, I think.
Yeah, more incidentals.
Yeah.
And
I was very, very lucky. I worked with a couple of voice directors, Jesse Thompson, who I mentioned, and Joanne Borum. Joanne Borum did a bunch of those as well. And so if they needed people to just come in to pick up something silly and quick, sometimes I just get the call saying, come on in and step into the studio. And that was wonderful to have that connection, to just know that people trusted you enough to go, can you pick this up? It's only a few lines. And I enjoyed doing it so much. They were all great to work with.
Yeah. And after that was probably one of your biggest roles, which you brought up earlier. You were in Ace Ventura.
Yeah. Yes, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective and I just played the monkey. That was it. Literally the ape. And as I said, I would come in on Mondays and lay down sort of 5 episodes. And we would track them because once again, we wanted the audience to understand that the monkey meant something, like he was talking about something specific, but it wasn't allowed to use language. So it was always really tricky to sort of get that down.
Yeah. And then after that, this is another one of my favorite roles you were in. And this show is the definition of weird, okay? You were in Flying Rhino Junior High.
Yeah. And I was in the studio with someone there. Radicus and I were in there together. Ron Rubin was Radicus. I think Terry Hawks directed that one. Yeah. So and that was a nice one because it was very clear. That was one of the wonderful shows where these two characters had something going on. So we were in the room together, working together, as opposed to acting with people who weren't there. Sort of, it was just the two of us playing the scenes together. It was really quite fun. It was a really wacky studio, I remember, because it was down. It was in a weird spot, and then upstairs, and it was a nice, comfy place. But I don't think it's a studio anymore.
So anyway. You, of course, played the Phantom, living in the basement of the school.
Yes.
And at last, the real me. Phantom.
Sorry, Phantom.
But no, you and Ron Rubin was seriously the dream team in that show because Ron Rubin played the the dorky sidekick who would always get on the Phantom's nerves.
Yeah, and called me Phantom.
Yeah.
Yes, Phantom. It's Phantom.
I remember that. That was a great show because I wanted to talk about another show. I'll do that later on. That one was cathartic for me because he was just always angry about stuff, and I love that. Where I spend most of my time these days, so it was cathartic to let it out of my system.
Most definitely. And another very big voiceover role you did was Cyberchase. You were obviously Dr. Marbles, and here I'm going to do the theme. Cyberchase moving, beating Hackett at this game.
Yeah. I think the last episode I did of that, I was working down in New York. I was doing a production in New York, and I got called into the studio at PBS to record a bit. And I think it was one of the last recordings for Dr. Marbles. And I got to play a love scene with Catherine O'Hara, which was wonderful because she's amazing, but she had already recorded it. It was already there. And most of it was drawn. So I was working with the Leica, seeing what was going on, and then voicing the scene, a love scene with Catherine O'Hara was kind of neat. Kind of a highlight of my animation career, playing love scenes with silly characters. It's really, really fun.
Didn't Dr. Marbles originally invent the hacker voiced by Christopher Lloyd to protect Motherboard, but then he turned evil? I believe that's the story behind Hacker.
He turned evil. Yeah. Dr. Marbles was a good guy, but yeah, he developed that.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. And weren't you also in the show? I like to consider this the predecessor to Cyberchase because it was very similar in a way to Cyberchase. Were you in Blaster's universe?
Blaster Universe? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, was
I? Blaster's universe. Jonathan Wilson and Juan Kiorian was in that show.
Yeah, Juan Kiorian.
Yeah, and it's very similar in a way because both are kind of like sciencey, mathy shows.
Right. I imagine at the time networks probably wanted something like with math and science.
Yeah.
So maybe people were doing that.
Yeah. And then this is another favorite show of mine. You were in Angela Anaconda. You voiced Mrs. Brinks.
Yeah, I loved doing that. That was at Studio 306. I also voiced Mr. Brinks. I think they changed his character later on. So that was the one cartoon series where I played scenes with myself, where I played Mrs. Brinks, and then I had to play the husband. And I would have to, it was just me in the studio, and it was really fun. I can't remember what the husband sounded like. I mean, Angela! I certainly remember Mrs. Brinks, but the teacher, yeah. And that animation was so fun to watch. That's two-dimensional images, and the face turning to a complete profile. And it was really, really interesting animation.
Yeah.
It's one of the few ones that I watched and laughed out loud at myself. Very the few cartoons I've done, because the other ones tended to be for sort of younger folk. And even though Angela there was something about it that appealed to me as an adult that I just howled.
Yeah, and Mrs. Brinks by far is one of the funniest characters you voiced because it reminds me of the voice a student does to mock their teacher. It's like, and then I got home from school and my teacher was like, do your homework.
Angela.
And everything is being told from Angela Anaconda's perspective. Yeah. So I will imagine that's how she described Mrs. Brinks. So that's how she gets played.
So after that, you were in Anne of Green Gables, the animated series, another fantastic show. You played Mr. Lawson.
Well, yes, right. Yeah, Mr. Lawson. That was a pretty straightforward one too. A little, but pretty straightforward show for me. Not too silly. It's funny, the extremes. Now I'm so glad I'm talking to you about this because I didn't realize it had gone from the extremes of like the drama of some of that. I mean, it was still quite silly and fun, but and the stuff in Redwall, it was very serious and kind of touching. And then the absolute wackiness of, you know, blazing dragons and stuff. What a wacky world I lived in for a while.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the reasons, you know, I enjoyed that show so much because I guess you could say I'm a fan of the Anne of Green Gables, the original story.
Yes.
You know, I would love to visit Prince Edward Island someday. I think it would be a beautiful place to visit.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful place. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place. Yeah. There's a musician who comes here. He's a singer-songwriter, Shane Pendergast. He comes to Toronto once in a blue moon, and I go and listen to him and go, I'm following you back to PEI, man. I'm going back. It's one. Yeah. It's a really lovely place.
And obviously Mr. Lawson was like the shopkeeper of Green Gables.
Yeah. Just the local, knew all the ins and outs of what was going on. And
Yeah. And Anne Shirley was voiced by a wonderful voice actress, Bryn McCauley. You ever worked with her?
Oh, Bryn, yes. Well, and that, but not directly. Of course, I was in the studio on my own. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bryn, and she also did, no, it wasn't Redwall. She did something else too that I was a part of, but I never worked directly with. Well, one of the things, you know, one of the issues was because, as I said, I was busy doing other work on stage and stuff. They could only get me on Mondays and whatever. So a lot of stuff would be done, and I'd come in at the end and go, okay, here's my bit.
Yeah. And then you were in another very popular show. I watched this show a lot as a kid. You were in Rolie Polie Olie.
Rolie Polie Olie. Yeah, the little greens. That's right. You're the little greens.
I believe you voiced one of the dogs as well.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah.
Well, see, I've forgotten that one. Did I? I probably did. Did the dog talk or just bark? If the dog just barked, it was probably me.
Yeah, it was probably because the main dog, Spot, just barked. So I'm guessing it's the same case for the dog you voiced. I can't remember the dog's name, though.
No. But yeah, the little greens, they were really interesting. They were fun. I think that was also Studio 306. I think it was that same little studio in the laneway. In a laneway in Toronto. It was a garage that was converted into a couple of studios. It was a fabulous place to work. Studio 306. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found out the name, the dog's name was Dicey, and I just remembered it was in the shape of like a dice.
Dicey. Right. Right. Wow. I've forgotten that one. That's pretty amazing. Another dog. My career went to the dogs at the very end because I voiced a dog in Paw Patrol the movie, and then I voiced a dog in Esme and Roy, and they were literally just dogs. There was just and just that kind. That's all there was, just dogs and no speaking, and it was really fun. Paw Patrol was fun because I got to speak, and he chased his tail, and he was insane. He was the nuthatch of the dog world. That's who he was. He was the Mr. Nuthatch of the dog world, chasing his tail, and that was the last. I think that was the last thing I voiced. And Esme and Roy, I played the dog, and that was one of those lovely ones where I could do a library, and I didn't have to go in for every episode. That I could, they could just use stuff in it, and that was the last thing I ever voiced, and then I stopped.
Yeah. And I believe you were in this show as well, which is actually from the same creator, William Joyce, as Rolie Polie Olie. You were in George Shrinks. Do you remember doing that one?
No, George Shrinks. Yeah. Oh man, you pulled out some stuff. George Shrinks. What did I do?
Again, incidentals in that show.
The what?
You were, I believe you were incidentals in that one as well.
Yeah. Because I would most of the regular character stuff, I kind of remember the series because I was connected to it for a while. But other ones, you go in, you read the script, but you don't know the whole season. You just know the day. And I go in and walk and just do something silly and then bail out of there.
Yeah. And another show you were only incidentals in was Braceface. Remember doing that one?
Braceface, yeah. That was again at 306. Very, very silly. That was a bit. I think that one was a little bit sort of dark, and wasn't it? Was
Yeah,
that
because it was
that was,
aimed at teens, and it talked
yeah,
about like serious topics about like like going on your period for the first time. They covered that.
yeah,
They covered like um racism in one episode. They covered
right?
underage drinking, like
Yeah,
serious
that
stuff.
one got, yeah, that one got serious and dark in places. I remember. Yeah, Braceface. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's right.
Braceface was voiced by Alicia Silverstone.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
At
Um,
least
and eventually they replaced in the third season. They replaced the voice with Stacy the Pass, who I'm sure you worked with.
right. Yeah. In the third season, they
Yeah, in
replaced.
the third season they replaced the voice with Stacy the Passer because I'm guessing the reason why is because Alicia Silverstone, I'm guessing, probably got too big, so they had to replace her.
Right, right, right. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's my
I
theory anyway. I don't.
yeah, yeah. You have a theory. Stick to it. I
Yeah.
have a theory.
um, and this is another show that's very popular. We're talking about Sailor Moon, how all of the actors go to conventions. Another show that's very popular is 16, and I believe you're in that show as well.
16. Yeah, yeah. I did that, and again, incidental stuff just popped in and popped out, and yeah, simple, straightforward stuff. I remember with that one. That one wasn't insane.
Yeah,
I don't really remember the very insane storylines and the silly characters.
yeah.
And also, there's a character. Did you ever see? You may not have. My Friend Rabbit.
Yes, my friend Rabbit, because you voiced the mouse.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Wow, you know your stuff, Gabe. That's remarkable. That's remarkable. That series, and I think we only did one season. Peter Oldring was the rabbit, and he and I were in the studio together. And that show for me, I'm talking about the silliness and how fun it is, and you fall about and get silly. That show was completely the opposite because it was for very young kids. So um, everything Mouse was kind of the more mature of the two characters and had to look out for his friend Rabbit.
Yeah,
And I remember going into the studio going, so no irony, you can't do irony, you can't do, there's no jokes, there's no innuendo, there's nothing.
yeah,
What Mouse says is what he means, and that's all. And I tell you how I feel, and it's real. And that's all there was. And I would come out of that studio like I just spent a fortune talking to a therapist because I felt so good. I would just go, how lovely it was to just be honest, to take what was on the page, just what was on the page, not have to do any other homework. As an actor, you're always doing that. You're pulling stuff out, going, but what does he mean beyond that? What am I saying? What am I feeling behind this? But with this storyline, Mouse just said what he meant
yeah.
and meant what he said and felt what he felt. And it was I just loved doing that show. I really enjoyed doing that show.
And Stacy the Pass was in that show as well.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Catherine Disher was in that one. We used to cross paths frequently.
Yeah.
Catherine Disher, she voiced a lot of stuff too. I think she was in Redwall and all of those. Yeah.
And Rolie Polie Olie.
And Rolie Polie Olie, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was another show for younger kids. You were in Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss Spider and then I also did a Care Bear thing where I played a star. It was similar to that, Miss Spider. Yeah. And that was again at 306. And again in the studio on my own, just recording the voice. What was the character's name? Do you know the character's name?
I believe it was Felix.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Felix was somebody sent me a recording of the song. He sang a lovely little song in it as well. It's one of the few shows that I sang in. And it was really, he was a lovely character, a sad, longing kind of guy.
Yeah.
Felix. Yeah.
And again, one of the leads was played by Julie Lemieux. Again, incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was really, really fun to work with. I did a couple of shows. I got to be in the studio with her on a couple of shows. It was quite fun.
Yeah.
I'm always just watching her, sort of taking notes because it's like, what's she doing now?
Yeah. So another show you're in that was this one didn't last very long, I don't think. You in Will and DeWitt.
Will and Duet, yeah, Will and Duet, yeah. That was a very interesting show. There was a lot of singing in that one. Will and Duet was it, uh, basically a musical thing, as I recall, because I seem to remember having to go in and record. And I think at that particular show they had done it, but they hadn't put together all of the music in advance for whatever reason. I don't know where the wheels fell off there, but I went in and we recorded the sessions. We did the sessions, and then got called back to do them again because we had to add the music. And so it was great for me because I had to go into the studio again. So it was a little more lucrative than a one-off for me. But going in and learning the music and stuff was really interesting and fun. I mean, the songs were not that difficult, but they were, it was still quite fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also did around that time you incidentals in Yin Yang Yo. Remember doing that show?
Yin Yang Yo, no, that's funny. Yin Yang Yo, I don't remember going in and doing either. And another thing that gets me is some of the things I did, their titles changed over the years and the characters changed. Like Zuzu, the Zuzu Pets. Zuzu went through a whole bunch of different names before it ended up what it was. I don't even know what it is now. And I don't, Yin Yang Yo, I think was probably. Oh no, I think that name stuck. I'm pretty sure, but it's one of those ones where I go, did I do that, or is that something I did and the name changed or whatever? I don't remember that one. I'm sorry.
Apparently your character was Professor Whackjob.
Whack job. Yeah, there you go. Wonder why I got that job. Nut hatch whack job. Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
And this was another major role you did. You did Busy Town Mysteries.
Yes, Busy Town Mysteries. That's where I worked directly with Julie Lemieux in the studio. That was a really interesting one. And then for whatever reason, it changed hands and everything got revoiced, and I don't know why. We just got flushed down. I don't know what happened to it, but it was a really fun one to do as well, and a real laugh. I mean, I had a good silly time in there on that one, but I don't know what happened. It just got changed up. And,
Boo!
yeah, boo, yeah, boo from us. But there you are. That's
Yeah.
life. And that was a tough one because we were in a studio where there was some major construction going on outside. I don't think it affected us too much, but it was weird because I'd walk to the studio and it was right downtown Montreal, and there was major construction. So they're pile drivers. And I'm like, that's not going to show up while I'm talking on the mic. And but anyway, it worked out. It worked out.
And your character, your voice was Pig Won't. Pig Won't is
Big
such
Whoa, yeah.
Big Will and Big Won't. I was Big Won't. That's right. Always getting into trouble. We were. He was a little guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna take a break from the animated stuff for just a minute because this is a live action show. But fun fact about me, I actually work at the airport, and you were in another show I watched quite a bit, Air Crash Investigation. You were in Delta Flight 191.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Dulles Airport, I think is where yeah, I think that was, yeah. Yes, I did that one too. That was interesting because, and I learned a few things about that one too, because I was basically a navigator. So I was the third guy in there, pilot, co-pilot, navigator. And that was right at the point where we don't have a navigator anymore. It's two guys or two people in the cockpit, and that's it. The third man, it was a very, and learned a few things about that. Worked with a pilot who I learned tons of stuff from about flying, and it was a fascinating show. And it was just just go in for a day, but you do a little bit of research because it was interesting because it's based on fact, a horrible fact, but a fact. So you go in and you do the research on it, and I learned tons of stuff. The animated work I loved because I really loved because you get the script, you read it, that's what it is, you go and do it. I loved that stuff. I loved doing the animated work for that reason. But anyway, that's been cut and recut and put in different formats or whatever. That story, that show.
Yeah. And my question is, did they film the cockpit scenes in an actual plane, or did he build a set to resemble a cockpit?
Yeah, set. It
Ah,
was a yeah, it was a set. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think there are shots, and I can't remember now because it was a while ago. I think there are shots like outside, so you can see us in through the glass, basically through the cop. So that they couldn't have done that in the real plane without having it, the whole. So that yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, that was just simple in the yeah.
yeah. So obviously that was a phenomenon known as a microburst, which caused the crash.
Yes, the microverse.
And
And one of the co-pilot actually had said at that point, "Be careful," and because this is on the recording, I assume in the black box,
yeah,
that you're going to get a downdraft.
yeah,
That's going to happen but it was doubled because of the down. Anyway, yeah, they crashed.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, enough of the sad stuff. Back into the silly animated stuff.
Back to the world of silly.
Yeah. So, you were in the Cat in the Hat, knows a lot about that, which was incredible because Rob Tinkler voiced like just about every character in that show, and Rob
Yeah,
Tinkler is awesome.
yeah, yeah. No, he really, yeah, that was a really fun one to do. A bit learned. It was where was that one? Downtown East Side. Yeah, it was a lovely show to work on for sure.
Yeah.
In front of the studio.
Yeah. And I believe the Cat in the Hat was voiced by Martin Short, if I'm not mistaken.
Martin Short, yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, never met him. As I said, I would have loved seeing with Catherine O'Hara. Never met her.
that's what they always do. The big celebrities are always separated from the little people.
Well, I mean, in the world of animation, it just sort of happens that way. People go into the studio. What I really love about this, Gabe, being able to talk to you about this is exactly what you're saying. That when a big celebrity who's gained their celebrity doing something other than animation and voice work, when they get called in to do a cartoon voice for something, they get interviewed up the yin yang and they get to talk about how, oh boy, I did this, and how new and how wonderful it is. And yet there are legions of us voice actors who've done nothing but voice work and nobody ever talks to us. So I really appreciate the fact that you're doing this and talking to us about it, because we don't get a chance. Nobody knows our faces. So
yeah. Well, you bring up a good point because I've interviewed mostly Canadian voice actors on my podcast because not a lot of people interviewing Canadian voice actors, and I think there was so many. I grew up with so many of these shows. I love to highlight their work because I love so many of you in Toronto and so many of you in Vancouver.
Yes, yeah, Toronto and Vancouver were the big centers of it. And I was lucky enough I moved here from Montreal, and I was just lucky enough to sort of fall into it because of the story I told you of my agent just bringing a casting director and then falling into this wonderful world of living in the studio. And when I was in high school, because I grew up in Quebec, and so I went to an Anglophone high school, an English high school, and it was the only one for many miles. So we were bussed in. So I'd get bussed into the school, and if I had a spare at the end of the day or something like that, I had to wait for the bus to get home. So I would take the time to play with things like microphones and tape recorders. And I remember making a whole little radio drama with my friends in the music studio and just fooling around and laughing and making our own sound effects and doing that stuff. And it was such a pleasure. And then lo and behold, years later, I find myself living in that world and actually collecting a paycheck for it as well. But not just having fun, but actually being able to feed my family while I was doing it was pretty wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So a question I have for you, since you were born and raised in Montreal, did you ever learn to speak French?
I do speak French, but I'm not fluent. And sadly, I think when I grew up in Montreal, it was probably the second largest French-speaking city in the world. And I do speak French, but it was I left early. I left around 1976 not for political reasons. I left because there was some work here. Somebody called me in Toronto and said, come here. And that's why I left. But no, I never, what happened was we moved to a small community called Sainte-Thérèse, which was about 40 kilometers. So what do you, 25 miles in your world, 25 miles, 30 miles north of Montreal. Yeah. We lived there. And when I moved there, there were 3 Anglophone families in that area. Within a few years, General Motors built a plant there in Sainte-Thérèse. And here, near here, Oshawa, Ontario, there's a General Motors plant there. Just about half the population of Oshawa moved to Sainte-Thérèse. They were all Anglophone. And from then on, I didn't speak a whole lot of French.
Oh, wow.
From that time on, I didn't speak a whole lot of French, and then I left and came to Toronto. So, and I don't have much opportunity to speak French. The last time I did, I was in France. And everybody knew. And interestingly enough, when I spoke English, and this is interesting from the voice perspective too, that when I spoke English when I was in Europe, people would ask me what state I was from, and I'd say I'm from Canada. And so nobody knew exactly where I was from. But when I made a joke, I tried to make a joke in French to a waiter. And my daughter at that point had just ordered some French fries and ordered some ketchup with the French fries. And I made this little joke, and the waiter looked at me and he went, "Ah, même au Québec, ils mangent le ketchup." He knew I was from Quebec. He knew I was from Quebec by my accent when I spoke French, but nobody knew where I was from when I spoke English. Which is interesting.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's even I was in Mexico, and I ordered a specific beer, Pacifico, and I ordered it from the waiter, and he looked at me and he said, "You're from Montreal," and I went, "What?" He said, "You're from Montreal." I said, how do you know? He said, "By the way you said Pacifico, by the way you pronounced that I." He said, "You're francophone, so you're probably from Montreal." I went, wow, I love that people can do that, identify that little accent stuff.
Yeah. And one other thing about Montreal, have you heard of the animation studio? I believe they're defunct now. Well, I know they're defunct because they became Cookie Jar. Sinal, have you heard of them?
Yes, I haven't worked with them, but I knew of them. Yeah.
Because they were based out of Montreal. Obviously, they did Otho and Caillou and a bunch of other,
Yes, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. Anyway, moving along, your next big show you were in was Super Y, where you voiced the big bad wolf.
Yeah, the big bad wolf. Yes. Yeah. I voiced the big bad wolf. I did it once, and then I had a theater gig out in Edmonton. So I was in Edmonton, Alberta in the middle of winter. And I got the call saying, "You have to come back and redo the whole thing." So they booked a studio in Edmonton, and I had to go after a horrible snowstorm. I had to get out into the boonies of Edmonton to get to the studio to record this thing. And I remember recording it and laying it down. And the voice director, who I think was in New York, basically, she wasn't the voice, she was the director. My voice director was in Toronto. The director was in New York. And I revoiced the whole thing, and I do it, and I go, "No, do it this way, do it that way." And then by the time it was finished, it was basically exactly what I had done the first time. And it just did it again. But I don't know why. Somebody had to be there to say they'd done their job, I guess. I don't know. But it was an interesting one. And it was a fun one to do. Yeah. And he was scary. I mean, I kept, it's an edge because it's for very young kids. And it was very easy to get too scary.
Yeah. And then after that, you were in Camp Lake Bottom, and again, I think you just did some various voices.
Yeah, just did some one-off silly stuff. Yeah, probably. I don't think I played any animals in that one, but yeah, just one-off silly stuff.
Yeah. And then now we're gonna get to the last show, which is by far my favorite show you were ever in, which is the Zuzu Pets.
Zuzu Pets, yeah, Zuzu, yeah. That was another one of those. We were all in the studio together. Which was really quite fun. And Ted, I think not Ted, that's another guy. Mike Fellows was the voice director on that one. He was always a pleasure to work with. He did The Future is Wild. Did you ever see The Future is Wild?
I don't think I have.
No. Future is Wild. He did that. That was based on something that had come out of the Royal Museum in London, I think, an idea, and they took it, and so basically people traveled in time, went ahead into the future, and he directed that one, and he directed Zuzu Pets as well, and that was always really fun. But that was again with a whole crowd of people in the studio, but always fun because I think Rob Tinkler, is that his name?
Yeah, he voiced Chunk.
He voiced Chunk, yeah. And it was always, we would always do our thing, and then the punchline, and everybody licked their obs, and we'd all fall out laughing because it was always right on, really funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the very few ensemble things I did in the studio with a bunch of people. It was always a pleasure.
And
we really working on something big.
Yeah. And you, of course, Mr. Squiggles, the smart one.
Mr. Squiggles. Yeah. The small one, the science. I was the man of science. That's right. He was very smart.
Mr. Squiggles is science.
Yeah. He was quite fun. They were really fun to do because they were fun little problems they got themselves into. The lead character name changed names so many times.
Yeah.
I think they ended up with, I think I put it down here, Jenna, Frankie. I think they ended up with Frankie Pamplemousse. But they had to change that name so many times because of corporate stuff, because of toys and whatever. There were all kinds of shenanigans going on with, you can't use that name because we got the rights to whatever. I don't know. So I don't understand the legal stuff, but we had to go back and revoice her name in the middle of like sentences a couple of times because they kept changing it. And,
at one point, I believe it was Polie.
Polie, that's correct.
Yeah.
I think it's stated as Polie.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. So here in the States, it originally aired as Polie in the Zuzu Pets, but then it re-aired as the Zuzus, and her name was Frankie. And I don't think that ever happened before, where a show aired with the character's name, all flushed out, and then they had to redub it and change the name.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And we had to go back in and go through every line, basically. Go, oh, I said Polie here, so we'd have to redub it, every one of them. Yeah.
I heard, I don't know if this is true, I read a rumor online that the reason they had to change the name to Frankie from Polie is because you're talking about legal trouble. I guess Polly Pocket, they got in some legal trouble with Polly Pocket or something like that.
I think so. I think there were toy companies involved and everything as well that just said you can't do this, and so yeah, the lawyers came down and they went, okay, we'll change everything. So they did.
And
a burden to them because they still had to pay us if we go back in to the studio. You got to pay us for the time we're there, so that was a bit of a drag for them for sure.
Yeah, again, a great ensemble cast. Rob Tinkler, and then Taja Eason was a Pipsqueak, and Stephanie Siki, I believe that's who voiced Num Nums.
Yeah, Num Nums. Yeah, Num Nums. I love that name too. It was great. Yeah, that was really fun. There were a couple of actually just the opening sequence was really fun when we recorded the opening stuff, and even that one is built where it goes to the very end, and then Tinkler gets to go, Chunk gets to go, I'm not good at rhyming or something like that. That was just an absolute scream. The very opening of it was just that was the way it was always set up. We do our things, and then Chunk would go boom boom, and there's the laugh.
Also here, thinking of Jenna Warren, since she was the lead. Look at this picture right here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there she is. Cool.
That was at a Comic-Con in Wisconsin.
Oh really? Huh? Lovely.
Yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That was a good time.
Oh, neat.
So
you go to a lot of Comic-Con things? Do you go to those yourself?
Yes, I do. I actually travel the country going to different Comic-Cons. I've been all over. I've been, to Florida, to California, to Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Massachusetts.
Great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Met different people, different voice actors along the way, and
yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's a great way to build connections and make new friends.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Instantly, everybody has something in common.
yeah. You ever done any conventions?
No, I haven't. No,
Uh
no.
so I was gonna say my favorite episode that focused on Mr. Squiggles was the one where Frankie was pretending to be a superhero and Mr. Squiggles was the villain and he was way over the top. I believe his name was Dr. Thermostat.
Dr. Thermostat. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm the bad guy. Wasn't very good at it, as I recall, but he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a couple episodes where Frankie was, pretending to be a superhero. They had another one where she was like picking up all the trash at the park, and then like her rival, this girl who lived next door, she pretended to like she wanted to frame Frankie basically, and she
Yeah.
trashed the park.
Right. I've got to remember the name of that. Yeah, the villainess next door. Who was that?
Wasn't it Maj or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember now. I gotta go look it up. Should go
Yeah,
watch these again.
yeah.
Can you watch any of these anytime you want now? Do you have like CDs of them all or DVDs of them all or
Uh,
whatever?
well, sometimes they're available on YouTube. One of the
Yeah.
best streaming services I found for the old Nirvana shows is on Tubi. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I almost wonder. It seems like they have like a partnership with Chorus Entertainment because there's a lot of Nirvana shows on Tubi.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. I should go check it out because there's a few things I'd like to go back and have a look at. Like I was looking up Wyatt Burp because that was the very first character I did. And
yeah,
I remember having so much fun, but I've never seen it since then, since 1990. So, I mean, so I'd love to see if I could find it. And maybe I'll look on Tubi and see if it's there.
yeah.
And the only other work I did, voice stuff, was for a series that was called Classical Kids. I think they had to change that where they do the history of uh, composers. So I did Vivaldi and I did Mozart, and I played characters on those. I played a little dragon in the magic flute, and those were really lovely things to do. I do have a recording of that because I have the DVD, and the dragon actually says something really quite charming. And every time I play that, I go, "See, you can do a silly voice, but still mean something." And it's a nice thing to hear. And Mozart's Magic Fantasy, I also voiced Zarastro, who's the bass voice in the actual singing. I didn't sing it. I didn't do any singing in that one, but I voiced all the speaking parts of the bass character, Zarastro. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So
Never
before,
went to animation. Yeah.
yeah. So before we wrap it up, I have one other big question to ask you, and it's a tough one. What would be your favorite character you've ever voiced, if you have one?
The favorite character, as I said, I think was probably Mouse, and that, interestingly enough, that was the one because it's the one I remember that it it was very different, that voice, from what I would normally do. So, and yeah, I really enjoyed voicing that character. But I mean, I had a blast with Brinks, and Sir Blaze was just the wild, wacky energy and the fun, the joy of that, and cutting loose on that stuff was great. And Bark Troll, was a wonderful character too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love them all.
And do you have any, final thoughts or anything to the audience who watches these podcasts?
No, thank you for watching, and thank you, Gabe, for asking these questions of us. As I said, it's quite a wonderful thing to talk about it a whole lot. Once in a while we get to go to a Comic-Con or we get to do something like that, but for the most part, we don't get to talk about it a lot. We're just going to disappear into the background, and you've loved the show. That's how it's supposed to be. But it is nice to sort of be able to be asked about what the experience was like and what it is like in the studio, because we so very often hear about it from people who are major stars that get pulled into something and do, then they get to talk about it. But there are, as I said, there are armies of us who have done nothing but voice work, who would love to talk and share. So I'm glad you provide us with this. And I'm glad you have people who want to listen. It's great.
Yeah. And thank you again so much for taking the time to do it. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
And we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yes, you do too. Take care.